An idea that's come up before. Some people like it. A lot of people hate it. Patrick Kane, our first free agent idea coming up.
You're Locked On Sabres, your daily podcast on the Buffalo Sabres. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, everybody, and welcome in to this Monday edition of the Locked On Sabres podcast. And thanks for making us your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you listen to your podcast. You can watch our show on YouTube. Be sure to like and subscribe us there if you are watching along. And if you are interested in getting into our Locked On Sabres Discord and keeping the conversation rolling there, you can head over to lockedonsabres.supercast.com. That's the place to sign up and then head in there and chat with us. We got into it a little bit early on this idea that we are going to talk about today because we are just a couple of weeks away from the draft and also free agency. And today on the show, as the trade ideas are, we know what they are, and we've gone through a lot of them, and we will save a little bit in the back half of today's show for the rumor mill and what is being said out there right now by insiders, not just on like Alex Tuck or anything Sabre related, but some big things that could be happening around the league. But I feel like we've already gone through many of the big ideas, and we will continue to do so as they become available because there is a lot out there. Chris Johnson has said it, Elliot Friedman has said it, and others, that there are more big trade requests coming in the NHL. We don't know who. We can hazard to guess that it is guys from the U.S. roster, the U.S. Olympic roster. Maybe it's Connor McDavid, but that one seems like, a hope and a prayer for everybody. And otherwise, we'll see what that ends up being. But that's coming, and we'll talk about that, of course. But today, we'll start with some of the free agent ideas, and there are not going to be many outside of Tuck. I mean, Tuck is the number one free agent on the market, and then there is a big gap. So the quality of these players, not going to be what Tuck is, but maybe there's some value plays, guys that might fill some certain roles, and today we'll explore that potential with Patrick Kane, who, of course, is always a polarizing figure, which is, of course, why we're starting with him today. And I also feel like it's possible because, I don't know, I always feel like Terry Pegula probably has this slight desire to get him in a Sabre uniform before the end of his career, and they maybe came kind of close a couple of years ago when it was Don Granato and Kevin Adams, who had both had a connection with Kane, and they had courted him in the fall before he signed with Detroit, goes to the Red Wings, had a couple of years there with, relatively fine production, and I think he would have been a player that helped the Sabres over the last couple of years, but not what we're trying to figure out today. We're trying to figure out if he would help the Sabres next season. So a little bit on him, rumor mill, all coming up. The Carolina Hurricanes win the Stanley Cup, and if you are a Sabres fan, you did not enjoy seeing all the videos and pictures of the 06 Hurricanes raising the cup as it was 20 years later, and of course they played into that a lot on the broadcast and on social media. Rod Brind'Amour, I ended up realizing, was the only guy I didn't feel great watching lift the Stanley Cup. I still do not like Brind'Amour. He scored maybe the most heartbreaking goal of my life as a hockey fan. The puck sitting between Rory Fitzpatrick's feet, and Brind'Amour comes in and scores. He's the captain of the team that raises the cup that I think in most Sabre fans believe, if not all Sabre fans believe, should have been our cup. That should have been Buffalo's first championship. That's the dude that raised the trophy instead. And him being the coach behind the bench of this team, the guy I didn't want to see win it, rooting against him. I will give him credit, though. He's an excellent head coach. Like, to me, all of that is 06 related. What he is as a head coach, his system deserves much of the credit for them winning this Stanley Cup. They have good players, but it is not a super team. You look up and down their roster, like, they've got good guys. Jacob Slavin and Sebastian Aho are very good hockey players, but we are not talking about generational talents that exist on that team. You've got a lot of good players, and I've actually compared the Sabres to them in the past. Like, no superstar, a lot of good players, a couple of all-star caliber guys, and depth and defensemen. And their blue line has held together pretty solidly through these years. What they are that the Sabres are not, that I think you could apply to Tuck a little bit, is old. They're an old team. A lot of guys in their 30s. And the biggest signing they made last season in the offseason was signing the number one free agent winger that would turn 30 during that following season. They signed Nikolai Ehlers to a long-term deal. Now, not an 8-year deal like the Sabres would probably sign with Tuck, but they signed a 6-year deal for $8.5 million a year. And if you look at percentage of the cap this past year, it was about 9% of the cap. If Alex Tuck were to sign for $10 million next year, or even a hair under that, then Alex Tuck would be 9% of next year's salary cap. And they're the same age, and they're relatively, I think, the same caliber of player. They're both very good players, top line guys, not quite all-star level guys, but very good players. Like, to me, Ehlers is last year's version of Alex Tuck. And that team, are they going to regret it? They won the cup. Are they going to care? Now, of course, again, they signed into a 6-year deal, and maybe a lot of Sabre fans would be more into the Tuck idea if it was only 6 and not 8. But look at percentage of the cap, because that Ehlers contract last year was the same as what Tuck's would be this year. And they just proved, like, I can go sign the number one free agent and I can just win right away. And Mitch Marner and the Golden Knights is another example of that. Marner, I think, though, is a step above. He's a little bit of a different category for me. So whatever, Carolina wins it. I did enjoy watching Vegas lose. Carter Hart, of course, and the lot of it, Tortorella a little bit. I like Tortorella, though, going to Marner on the blue line in that third period. He was showing desperation, but was willing to try stuff. And I don't think a lot of coaches would do that, and he tried it and couldn't get the job done. Couldn't score a goal. Okay, let's get into our first free agent idea. We will have many of these. There are a lot of mid-level players that are worthy of talking about. And before we full dive into Patrick Kane, he's going to fill a very specific hole in the Sabres lineup or need that they have. And when we look at what they need in free agency, it's nothing major. Like, unless Tuck leaves and they can't get a trade done, but there's really no name that's going to replace Tuck on the top line. So what are you looking to get that is a reasonable cost? I would like to get power play production. That'll be the center point piece of our talk today. Power play, help on the power play. I think a third pair defenseman would be nice for them to get. And that's kind of it. Like, those are, to me, the top two things. And maybe one more guy that could help with faceoffs, but they have so many centers that the only way you're going to do that is if somebody leaves and somebody goes out the door in a different sort of trade. So the needs could pop up as they make deals. If they send out a couple of guys by bringing in one guy, then maybe there's another need in free agency that we don't see at the moment. But to me, it is power play, and it is going to be third pair defense. Those are the two things you need to be focusing on. And today, our power play guy, the first guy we're going to talk about for that specific need, and I think the guy to look at is Patrick Kane. Now, wasn't even going to talk about Patrick Kane when I was planning out the offseason about a week or two ago, because I didn't think he'd leave Detroit. All the talk was he wasn't going to leave Detroit, that he wanted to stay there. He wanted to be a part of the solution. But then this little thing happened where Dylan Larkin, the captain of the team, asked for a trade. And I don't know if you've been following the news lately, but it kind of sounds like Steve Yzerman is going to honor that request. He's actually kind of trying to get Larkin to expand the list. Like, that to me is an indication that you are willing to trade him away. So if Larkin gets dealt, Kane is not staying there. That is not happening. So he's leaving, and he's going to, I think, continue playing. He still is a good enough player. He's nowhere near the player he once was, and arguably one of the worst defensive forwards in hockey at this point in his career. So he definitely has his warts, and you are sacrificing some certain things if you want to bring him into your lineup. But is there value? Yes. There's value in certain spots and in a certain role. Does he do it well enough to warrant the Buffalo Sabres signing him, and what would the cost be? Well, let's talk about what he's been in Detroit, assuming that he will now leave the Red Wings. In the last 3 years, since the Sabres courted him, didn't get him, goes to the Red Wings. 189 games played at age 35, 36, and 37. Kane, in those 189 games, 163 points, which, honestly, that's pretty good. Like, that's better than I would have expected. If you go back and listen to our shows talking about this as an idea years ago, you would not have found me saying that he was going to do that. I would not have believed for a second that Kane was going to put up almost a point a game, which, I mean, relatively, it was pretty close to that. Again, 163 in 189. Like, he did it. He came back from that hip injury that many didn't know if he would be able to, because the history of that hip injury was a lot of guys having their careers ended. Nicholas Backstrom was one of them in Washington, and there were several others. Think if I can really remember right, who is the defenseman for Florida? Ed Jovanowski maybe had his career ended by the same injury, and that was part of the talk on Kane, and then it didn't happen. He was able to produce offensively at the very least. So, by the way, he played like 18 minutes a night while he was in Detroit the whole time, so he got the minutes in there as well. What you saw from Kane, though, more than anything, was an ability to continue to produce on the man advantage. And in those 3 years with the Red Wings, you're looking at 16 power play goals and 47 power play assists. That is really strong from Kane. And watching the Red Wings throughout the years, like, he is one of the conductors of that power play. Like, the puck movement and the offense really does go through him a lot, playing on the right flank, which, by the way, is exactly what the Sabres would be looking for. So he gave the Red Wings power play. And I don't know, in terms of like leadership, sounded like the Red Wings were impressed on that front. Like, I don't necessarily like Patrick Kane as a human being from, the things that have happened here, which at some points have been pretty gross. But what Patrick Kane has been in a locker room, I guess there's no complaints on that front. I remember when we used to have Don Granato on a WGR. Granato would talk insanely highly about Kane as a leader and what he can be for a young group. He did not really have a young group in Detroit that was a veteran group, but here, of course, he would have some more of that. Where did he play in that Detroit lineup? Well, when you look at the guys that he really played with over those last couple of years, and far and away, Alex DeBrincat was Kane's most common line mate, because he's always been this, but especially this point in his career, Kane is a playmaker. He is a setup man, and he will still score goals here and there, but 57 goals to 106 assists. It is the assists that you're getting from Kane. And in those 3 years in Detroit, he played 1,900 minutes at 5-on-5 with Alex DeBrincat, which was more than double anybody else on the team. The next closest, and that includes all defensemen, was Mo Seider at 969 minutes. The next closest forward was Andrew Kopp at 854 minutes. So 854 minutes for his most common center, 1,917 minutes for his most common winger. What is DeBrincat? He's a goal scorer. He is a shooter. He's a sniper. And we'll get to what I see for him in Buffalo if he ever were to sign here. But that, I think, is indicative of what he is at this point in his career and the type of guy that you would want to pair him with. Andrew Kopp, though, his most common center, didn't play a lot with Dylan Larkin. Only 493 minutes with Larkin, 1,800 minutes away from Dylan Larkin in those 2,200, or actually more than that. No, Larkin missed some time, so that's about what it actually came in at. So not a lot with Larkin, a lot with DeBrincat, and that's a good player. That's a 40-goal scorer. So did it help him? Production-wise, point-wise, that he got to play with him? Sure. But he, to me, was not a disaster playing in the top 6 for a lot of those 3 years with the Red Wings. You are, of course, sacrificing a lot in your own end. And do the Sabres want to play a player like that at this point? I mean, part of why I think they moved on from Jeff Skinner when they did and bought him out a couple of years ago, I mean, he had scored 24 goals the year before. It was more so about how he just gives you nothing in his own end. And as his career goes on, that only gets worse and worse. And you could say the same thing about Kane. So you're really sacrificing that's the story, I think, in Detroit. Now, how much does he have left? And if he were to sign here in Buffalo, how much would he be for? And what type of role? How would Lindy fit that in? I'll let you know what I see for that coming back here on the Locked On Sabres podcast. Today's episode of the Locked On Sabres podcast is presented by Odoo. Running a business shouldn't feel like you're trying to connect a bunch of systems that were never designed to work together. One app for accounting, another for inventory, another for sales, and somehow none of them talk to each other. That's where Odoo comes in. Odoo is an all-in-one business management software that brings every part of your business together in one powerful platform, from sales and accounting to inventory and marketing. Everything works in one place, helping your team move faster, stay organized, and focus on growing the business instead of managing software. The best organizations know that success isn't about talent. It's about having everyone working together to the same goal. And that's true in sports. You know, look at the Knicks just recently. Everybody working in the same goal under Leon Rose, made all those moves around Brunson, and everything worked. Everybody on the same playbook, on the same page, not reactionary. Great organizations win because operations matter. And that's why you should get Odoo. Try for free at odoo.com/locked on. That's ODOO.com/locked on. Sneaky Joe DiBiase back here on the Locked On Sabres podcast. Free agency a couple of weeks away. Talking about some Patrick Kane today, which we have talked. Maybe this is the third time. Is it even the fourth? I mean, I've been doing the show for 7 years now, and it's come up. It's come up here and there because Kane's been available a couple of times. And of course, he is always a interesting figure in Buffalo hockey. I think there are many that never want him on the team at all. And I totally empathize with those people. And I end up probably becoming closer to them on that. Some would love it and would buy his jersey the second that he signed with the team. I tend to think, just from my read of things, and I'm not just kind of guessing here, that more are in the camp of never Kane, and that there's a lesser amount of people that would love it. And I guess we'll get to what I would like to see them do in this front. It's not my favorite idea. Let's just put it that way at the start here. Now, that doesn't mean that there wouldn't be any value on the ice to adding Patrick Kane. I do legitimately think that you can't say that it is an unreasonable idea. A team that can go a month late in the season without scoring a power play goal, I just don't think it is the worst idea in the world to be looking at a player like this that can control your power play with the puck decisions, cross ice passes, which the Sabres have really struggled at, I think, on the power play more than anything, and really give you someone that can move the puck around from that spot that Josh Norris had been playing. I think Kane is an upgrade on that. The real question, of course, is going to be, does he do enough for your power play? I think he would help it substantially. But is there enough happening at 5-on-5 to warrant that? And one comparison I was thinking about for Kane at this point in his career, that I think if you were to sign him, 1-year deal, by the way, and I want to get to the money in a second, your best case scenario, I think, for what you're getting is you're getting someone who's going to make the Sabres a top half of the league power play. Like that is goal number one. You will be in the top 15, 16 in the league in power play. Maybe you can even flirt with the top 10. Kane being impactful enough on that to do that, I feel like it's probably a good chance. Last year, the Red Wings with Kane were the 12th best power play in the league. The year prior, they were the 4th best power play in the league. And the year before that, they were 9th. So 3 times they've been top 12 while the Sabres have been struggling in that same amount of time. At 5-on-5, can he just be what Jason Zucker is? And I think Zucker is going to give you more compete in his own end, defense, but scoring. Can Kane give me what Zucker did at 5-on-5? Because if I can get that out of him, then I think it warrants him being on this team. Maybe you don't like having 2 aged forwards like that, so maybe you want to move Zucker off the team at his salary, $4 million. And you bring Kane in at, I feel like the deal he just had in Detroit is perfectly reasonable and fair. 1 year, $3 million. He made $4 million the year prior. I feel like $3 million. If you could move Zucker, that actually would be a discount replacing him. And I think that is about what he's going to get. I can't imagine he'll get much more than that. And why would he be willing to do that in Detroit and not wherever else he would choose next? Because he would clearly have to believe in the team he's going to. So that's what I see for Kane. 1 year, $3 million. I personally still feel like there are better players out there. If the Sabres make a big trade for whoever it is, I don't think, and it's a forward coming back, I don't think you need to do the Kane move. That big acquisition is the guy that I'm hoping to fix my power play. And if I do that, what do I need Kane for? Kane, to me, is the idea that comes after no Talk coming back. And even if Talk comes back, honestly, you can make the same argument because Talk doesn't impact the power play. Or they don't pull off a big trade. And if those two things don't happen, then 1 million, or excuse me, 1 year, $3 million for Kane, to me sounds like a fine idea, but it is down the list for sure of things I would like to see the Sabres do this offseason. All right, when we come back, some rumor mill around the league, any of it connect to the Sabres, more so around the league, big names, a lot coming up here on the Locked On Sabres podcast. Today's episode of the Locked On Sabres podcast is presented by FanDuel Sportsbook. Biggest stage in soccer is here. We love it. Every match feels like it has the potential for a memorable moment. We've had a lot of competitive games so far. Huge upsets. How about Cape Verde? I mean, what a story that was. And any game, you get a big change of momentum, and the outcome can be changed in an instant. What makes this tournament so exciting from the opening whistle to the final kick. Right now, FanDuel is giving fans another reason to stay locked into every match with every goal pays. Bet on a match, get bonus bets for every goal scored in that match. And more goals means more bonus bets. All you got to do is turn on your token. And that's what I love about the. I mean, you get the Egypt goal from earlier, from way out. You might not even be rooting for them in the game, but that big goal, and if you have every goal pays and use that token, then you're going to love that goal, even if, again, you're not into it on Egypt. From the opening whistle to the final kick, let there be goals on FanDuel. Visit FanDuel.com to get started today. Today's episode of the Locked On Sabres podcast is also presented by 5 Hour Energy. If you got a sweet tooth like I do, you know how tough it is to find that perfect treat without all that sugar. That's why the Fruity Rainbow 5 Hour Energy Shot brings that nostalgic flavor back in a whole new way. Fruity Rainbow 5 Hour Energy Shot treats your taste buds to an explosion of fruity flavor with a tasty caffeine kick. Quick, easy, satisfies your sweet craving while keeping things simple and on the go. Zero sugar treat, sweet tooth approved. It's convenient too, of course. Small, portable shot, grab and go whenever you need a little bit of a pick-me-up or you just want it for the taste. Become my go-to when I want something sweet without going overboard. Get candy-flavored chaos with Fruity Rainbow 5 Hour Energy Shots, available online now at 5hourenergy.com. That's with the number 5hourenergy.com or on Amazon. Sneaky Joe wrapping things up here on the Locked On Sabres podcast. Hurricanes win the cup. Now, think we should get to some movement. Would love for the Sabres to be a part of that, but generally this time of year, anything that's on the goal line with these teams, trade-wise, waits until the finals over. Now that has happened, I think over the next month or so, or excuse me, the next couple of weeks, we should be seeing the action pick up. And there's going to be a lot of movement around the league. We've talked about on this show, and a lot of the big insiders are talking about it. The USA hockey guys that could be requesting a trade sometime soon, guys that have 1 year left on their contract, Matthews and Brady Tkachuk and Zach Werenski. And actually, Frank Saravelli reported tonight that Zach Werenski is like Brady Tkachuk, teetering on the edge of this being the year, this being the time that he asks for a trade, but does not know if he's gotten there yet. But those are two names to watch. The latest on Connor Hellebuyck, who we've talked a lot about on this show, is from Florida Hockey Now that the Panthers have made an offer on Hellebuyck, or that they are in on that. And there is a sense out there in the league that Hellebuyck could narrow it to Florida. And kind of put Winnipeg in a really bad position and say, I am only going to the Florida Panthers in a trade. Now, he and Larkin are going to be put in this spot, though, where they are not going to be able to dictate that if the teams say, well, that's fine, then you're staying here. And it's going to take a strong GM to do that. That's why I've wondered about Yzerman doing it with the Red Wings. And it seems that he has accomplished that already because Larkin's list is growing by the day. Well, if Hellebuyck goes to the Jets and says, I want to be traded, and I only want to be traded to Florida, it's going to take Winnipeg to come back and say, well, no, you're a Jet, or we're going to open up that trade list, give me 10 teams you're willing to go to, and then we're going to have a bidding war. And if you don't agree to that, then you're not getting traded. It's going to take that. It's going to take a strong general manager for that to happen. And if that happens, then maybe you get the Sabres in on Hellebuyck. But for now, Florida appears to be the favorite for him. The reporting of the last couple of days is that Minnesota is the favorite for Dylan Larkin. The Sabres have not been mentioned yet on any of these guys. And that is disappointing, even just from the sense of I'd like to know what Jarmo Kekalainen wants. Just, is he going to go for another big-name defenseman like he tried with Parayko, or is he going to do the thing that I think he probably will, which is go for a big-name top-six forward, or Hellebuyck, a goalie? We've got radio silence so far on the rumors about the Sabres. So we're still waiting on that. Saravelli also tonight have a hard time seeing a path for the Golden Knights to entice Detroit. So it's one of the original three that probably doesn't have the assets. That's been the sentiment about Florida. So again, you get to Minnesota probably being the favorite for Dylan Larkin. So that's where we're at right now. Otherwise, it's a lot of Babcock stuff. Waiting on the Mike Babcock Edmonton thing, which is ridiculous that the Oilers tried it in the first place, and they're going to try to get it through the finish line. We'll see. All right, that's going to do it for us today here on the Locked On Sabres podcast. More, if you got a free agent you want to talk about, like, throw it our way. Discord's best way to do that. Coming every day or today. LockedOnSabres.supercast.com. Sign up, and we'll talk to you tomorrow here on the Locked On Sabres podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now your number one sports podcast network.